This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. Today on the iDesign Lab, we're joined by Kristy Salewsky, founder of Crew Collective Design, a San Diego-based boutique studio redefining luxury interior design through an accessible, streamlined approach. Blending her background in corporate strategy and performance with a designer's eye, Kristy creates warm, refined, livable spaces for clients across the country, both virtually and full service.
Welcome to the iDesign Lab podcast. Today we are joined from San Diego. We have Kristy Salewsky, and she is another high-end interior designer who has a really interesting approach through the virtual life that we all now adapt to on our phones and screens. So I'm really excited that she's here to join us and to hear about her process. But let's start by welcoming Kristy, and we want to hear a little bit about you to our audience.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. It's a great honor. And I love that we're able to do this. I'm in San Diego and you're over on the East Coast in Florida, and we're able to have this interaction and reach out to clients. So it's fantastic. A little bit about me. I have not always been in the interior design world, but I've always had an eye for design and creativity. So I was a dancer and kind of like a visual artist through movement for a lot of my life. And I also kind of like rearranged my room several times and helped out with friends and family. And I really do feel like I always had this creative side, but I never really had it in my work. For 25 years, I was in medical sales and marketing. So that's a little bit of my background. And I worked for large corporations, Johnson & Johnson and Boston Scientific. And I just got burned out. I got laid off one day and was like, you know what? I've been doing this on the side for friends and family. And after 2020, I realized that, you can build a business and reach clients virtually. And I kind of launched my business. And I'm like, I think this thing's going to take off. And I think I'm actually kind of good at it, and I educated myself and learned. And that's kind of how I started my business. But personally, I'm originally from the East Coast. I am born and raised in Rochester, Buffalo area, New York. And although I love my family, I just don't love snow. So I live in
and
California.
It is cold there right now. We have clients there.
How did you end up all the way in San Diego from Rochester and Buffalo?
I know. At that time in my life, I moved out here. I was around like 22, 23. So I was right out of college. And I worked for Club Med for a year. I just wasn't ready to settle down. I still wanted to travel. I studied abroad in London, and I really had that itch to just travel and tour. And somebody told me, because I was a dancer and a performer, they're just like, your talent is needed on cruise lines or,
so
Club Med. Have you heard
interesting.
of Club Med? And I said, no, I don't know what Club Med is. So I was introduced and I went to New York City and did an audition, and I ended up getting a job working for Club Med on a year contract. And that's where I met people all over the world. And I met a bunch of friends from San Diego or from California. And they just said, once we're out of this, we're going to go live in San Diego. You should fly out here and see how this place is. And I did, with one suitcase and a one-way ticket in February because it was snowing and really blustery cold. And I just sent out my resume. And, back then I had that hard drive, I have the hard drive of my resume and my one packed bag. And I just met this woman that was dumb enough to hire me, and I stayed.
God bless. I mean, that's the one thing I enjoy so much about doing the podcast is everybody's stories are so interesting. And obviously through so much travel, you must have had so much inspiration.
Oh yeah. I mean, first of all, I grew up in a really small town, so I really didn't have a lot of travel growing up. I mean, we we drove up and down the East Coast, and that was definitely my excursions. And and East Coast is beautiful. I'm not saying that, but in traveling to
Abroad.
Europe and to
Yeah.
study over there, the architecture, the beauty, I went to Italy on weekends, and then I went to Ireland on weekends, and I went to France, and then as an adult, I've been back there. And I would say as a designer and just as a
Yes.
person, like you take what you love, and something that I'm really drawn to is European architecture now and European
Definitely.
styles. And I might choose that in a sort of look that is innately becoming my style because I think I've been there so many times and just really, really admired the beauty.
Absolutely. And how they marry the old and the new so eloquently.
So beautiful. Yeah.
It is. It really is inspiring. So, as your life evolved in San Diego, you obviously left the corporate world. And when you decided to tackle interior design, how did you land on the niche of this? Is it virtual? What's the right way to explain it?
Yeah, so I consider myself a practical approach to luxury interior design. When I first launched my business, Crew Collective Design, I did launch as a virtual interior designer. And that was 3 years ago. So I'm entering into my third year. And I was getting clients all over the US. I think I reached clients in about 15 states thus far. So the virtual piece did really take off. And it was a great way to reach clients. But what I realized was the after picture, you don't really get that finished result picture. And I think I was doing locally a disservice to my community by saying I was just virtual, right?
Right.
So now I do and can do full service interior design, renovations, as well as furnishing and decor. So I kind of consider it like I recognized a gap in the marketplace where a lot of designers and a lot of my colleagues are a full service interior designer, and that is what they offer, and that's great. But I offer more. So essentially, I offer a service level that meets the client where they are, and some of those clients are just an everyday person that doesn't want the full service or doesn't need it, or truthfully doesn't have the deep pockets to be able to have that service, because it really truly is a white glove service, and it's a great service and we offer it. But a lot of the entry level clients just don't know how to put a concept together and really don't know where to shop and what looks good together. And that's really what they are paying for you and need. And I have a service for that. And that's my comprehensive virtual interior design package. And I cater it to the client.
So tell us a little about virtual interior design. What does that all mean? How does that all work?
How does it start? They send you a picture or a room plan, or
Because
how?
you don't go and visit the client. Let's say they're in North Dakota.
No, but if they want to pay me to travel there,
Right.
absolutely, I'll go. Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
but we don't need to be there. And I think that if they are, say they hire me for a kitchen or, a master bedroom or a primary bedroom, we always start off with, I have a signed contract, and I want to make sure that our deliverables are what they're looking for. And then I give them a scope of work. So we sign that contract. And then from there, the onboarding process is a questionnaire, a pretty intuitive
Extensive.
questionnaire that is very comprehensive. And in that, I really get a good understanding of the space. And part of the process is that they have to upload pictures, videos, as well as measurements. And sometimes it's their handwritten measurements that I put into a floor plan or
Right.
a CAD drawing. Or if they're doing a remodel, it tends to be like an as-built that I use at that point. So I really have everything that I need to at least to give the client a conceptual.
Do you find everyone to be like easy to work with and giving you all this information?
Thus far, yes.
I'm sure 'cause
Yes.
they want the support. They want the reassurance of this service.
Yeah, because I also do request payment up front, so usually, or at the very minimal, I offer a 50%, payment. So they already paid for the most part. So
Mhm.
it's really up to them to give me what they need. There is a little bit of upfront work, but it is talking about their project. And in it is really, I always make sure that they have a Pinterest board and that they have inspiration for me. So that's always the start of the process. I always launch with a call, a virtual call, just to make sure that we're on the same page and possibly talk through that concept, and also look through their Pinterest pictures, because their board might be all over the place and
Right.
it doesn't have a clear direction. But I go through each picture or majority of picture and I'm like, what did you see in this picture that you like? And what I see is something that they are not
Seeing.
sharing. They're like, what I see here that I like, Kristy, is the white countertops. And I was like, oh, wow, what I'm seeing is oak cabinetry. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
So
you know,
their
we
so their Pinterest board is basically all of the different things that they've seen that they like that they'd like to incorporate into their home.
And she has to
yeah,
discern them.
Right.
exactly.
So
And
are
I'm okay with that.
are your calls Zoom calls, or is it just a regular telephone call typically?
I have an online design platform that I like, that I keep all my communication and my mood boards, and if I do procurement, everything is in my design platform. So I try to really stay off text once I start working with clients, and email. So all
Wow.
communications in one place. I do virtual calls initially when, I mean, I'll first talk. Let me turn that off. I first will talk to a client on the cell phone, and then I will have a virtual call to kind of like launch the process. And then when I'm doing my first presentation of the concept and mood boards and selections and my kind of like my direction for the design, I do that in a virtual call, and we go over everything and go over the process of, do you like this, and how my online design platform works, so they understand the functionality of it. And then we're kind of communicating very, very clearly from there. It is a very, the process is very tight, and gets from point A to point B very, very quickly.
What is your time process turnaround from, the initial onboarding of the client and the signed contract and the Pinterest board? What time frame do you need internally?
Yeah, I think
to
that's
turn it?
a very good question, and I get that a lot from clients. I usually try to have my design within a month's time.
Okay, so within
and
30 days.
and finished within that time. So by the time I usually sign their contract, I know that I have room for them in my monthly allotment, right?
Mhm.
So usually within a week after that, I will have either a floor plan or a concept, something to present within a week.
Yeah.
And then once I get that approved, I can move into the mood board stage and starting selections pretty quickly, within like 2.5 weeks. And then I try to really get them to move through those selections. Some clients are like, yes, 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 or I don't like this. And they kind of like know what they want. And then we cultivate it or curate it to their likes. So I would say I really do try within a month process to get them from concept to even like a rendering, but within a month.
So I have seen online a lot of your renderings, but if we go back, when you said you keep everything in one space, is it an application or is it did you create this software or?
Yep, it's a software, and there's a bunch of them out there.
Right.
But the one that I love is Design Files.
Okay.
And it is very user friendly. I get a lot of reviews. I mean, I'm a 5-star review business so far, and I pride myself in that. And a lot of people comment about how easy it was to work with me, and how easy my online design platform was to like see what they liked. And
that's really amazing.
Is most of your work remodels or just like
Room
redecorating?
design.
I started in the business with decorating, because that's really where my eye was in the beginning, and I enjoyed it, and I still do that.
A lot
I
of
still
it,
do.
yeah.
But my husband is a contractor. He's a commercial contractor, and I really kind of learned a lot through working with him, and I realized that I was getting leads for kitchens and bathrooms, let's say, and I just was saying no, I wasn't taking on those businesses because I felt like, or that business, because I just felt like I didn't have all my ducks in a row quite yet, right? But let's just say it's a virtual client, I mean, I found resources that I can, do materials coordination at a national level where they could go locally and pick it up.
That's unbelievable. I mean, really.
I just didn't have that when I launched, and I just felt like I was doing the client a disservice. So I had to kind of get my ducks in a row and build that. And yeah, I mean, that's where I can really kind of get them products there locally.
So are you taking like the samples yourself and curating it so you see it, and then you're just having them go locally and see it themselves as well? So you both are touching, feeling?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just not there for those meetings, or if I am, I'm virtual. So I will have the samples come to me. Yeah. And then I will curate from that. And then I will also ship samples to the client personally, like a little package for them.
Right.
And then, or go to the store that I'm sending them to, that they can get some really good pricing locally. And I work with the local rep to like kind of position it to them.
So do you budget? When you say that, even with pricing, it brought my mind to budget. Are you providing a budget, or are they providing you a budget in the beginning?
I always have to start with a budget from the client. That is one of my questions in my questionnaire, because that kind of scopes the work of where I'm going to source,
what
right?
vendors
like,
you use.
Client, exactly. Is this client like a low to mid? Is this a mid to high? Is this a premium client? And that goes back to my entry point. Like, I like to say that my business is an entry point for a lot of people. And if they're like, you know what, this bathroom remodel for material selection, is $15,000, which is a relatively tight budget, I know where I have to go. Right. And the vendors that I have to go, and the cabinet lines that I have to go to, and I have to present that to the client and say, I'm not even going to present you this because this is out of budget, but here's where you're at.
Right.
And here's another option if you decide you have more in the budget, but that's your choice. But I'm still going to find you good, solid, because you can get a subway tile, let's say, for
that's $95,
or you want one that's $20. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Do you find clients being reluctant to give you a budget? Because we've had a number of podcasts just about that and budgeting and so forth, because a lot of people feel like, I don't know,
whoever says the number first loses.
They don't want to say what their budget is, but we've talked a lot about the fact how important it is for people to really express and explain what their budget is to their interior designer.
Oh yeah,
because of how helpful that can be.
Extremely helpful. But I mean, I think too, if I put myself in their shoes, and if I was a consumer, you're always going to probably lowball the budget, right? Because, if I'm even if I'm presenting what I do for the client, I never say, what's your budget for an interior designer? Because they have no idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have to kind of scope it as, this is the main range of what you would spend for a full service interior designer, or my full service, support for this type of project. This is the range where you're going to be paying in the industry or within San Diego or wherever you're at. Are you comfortable with that? And, if not, then we're going to be in this service level. That's kind of, so I even talk very, very early on about financials. And a lot of it comes down to education. I mean,
they don't know.
They don't know. And even with a $15,000 budget, I'm like, the majority of that is going to be in cabinetry, Right. So, and these are, this is average what you're going to spend for this type of product. So it takes a little bit of education.
Do you price your fees for the project? Is it based on the contents? Is it based on the budget, or based on the hours, or all of the above?
Yeah, and that is this is such you could have like 10 zillion podcasts on this topic. And
It is, yeah.
it's such a big topic. And I network with a lot of designers, and we always go back and forth on this. I think there's designers that do hourly, and they just think it's, the easiest approach. For me and my business model, what works for me, and I think that is the most approachable way, where a client knows what they're getting out of that investment with me, because it is an investment.
It is.
Right? I think when they start doing full service and it's hourly, they don't know how much that's exactly going to be, and it's invariable. So with me, I'm a flat rate.
Okay.
Based off of the project and the scope. Is I typically have a number, but if it changes, like if they don't want a rendering, or I don't need to be in CAD or something like that, I can adjust and swing on a scale. But it is a flat rate for a clear deliverables listed in my contract of what they will receive and on a timeline. Anything after that, whether it's, on-site visits, calls, resourcing, change of scope or whatever, it goes into my hourly rate.
So it's funny because, talking with you, and I've been in the business for longer, but I've watched the industry evolve so much, like where people like you who have a strong creative background and, a lot of drive and passion for design. It's just been such a fascinating time to watch the opportunity for everyday people to want to tackle this, because for so long interior design was only for the wealthy or for super custom
that's
homes. Was the way it was perceived. Correct. So everybody always comes in to the mindset, well, why do I need a designer? Do you ever feel like you're having to sell yourself or your services, or when they come to you, they're pretty ready?
Yeah. I think when they come to me, they're usually ready. However, if they can invest what I'm offering at my lowest service level, then they really should not be working with a designer.
Right.
Period. I mean,
yeah.
That's how I've designed my business and my approach. So, and I'm okay with saying goodbye to that client and hope that they you can find great stuff at Home Goods if you know how to put it together. So it's like, go shopping at Home Goods.
But that's the key thing that you just said, if they know how to put it together.
Right, and I always say that, like, technically you can't design a whole house out of Home Goods. I mean, you can if it's like a small, but like it's texture, it's layer. And as you said, in one of our previous, conversations this morning was, you start with just the room, but as you grow into the whole experience of interior design, it really is in the architectural, in the structure, and in all those components combined. So it definitely begins to overlap.
You're so correct, Tiffany. And I always start my calls with them, what's your biggest pain point? And their biggest pain point, and I hear this over and over again 90% of the time, I don't want to make a mistake.
Right.
I know what I want. I don't know how to put it together.
Yes.
I painted my whole house. I hate it. So literally just need some advice. They need that. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So if they're telling me it's a small investment for making a big impact that you're going to be happy with, and
then having to do it twice.
Yeah, you don't have to do it twice, and you'll get from point A to point B quickly. And I share the benefits of it. And like, if it's a virtual thing, then they get everything in a clean little package of what to buy, what sizes, within your budget, and how to implement it. They're like, oh wow, that's great, versus maybe like with a full service, thing, they really have to believe in the investment and not want to lift a finger, right? And trust a professional to do it. So
going back to the virtual, option, is that still something that you see a lot of need for as you've evolved, into the San Diego area? Or do you, is that virtual part still, because that's actually something we've considered and, grappled with, because we do have clients from out of state, as well. I mean, it's definitely doable. But I'm wondering if you see the need as your services evolve more in your home base.
I think that'll be something that we'll see how my business grows and what it grows into. Right now, I'm doing a lot of remodeling and I'm enjoying it. I mentioned earlier that I'm building a custom home right now. So, and my husband's a contractor. So I'm really getting involved in the remodeling industry and working with contractors and really aligning and partnering there. So I see my business really taking off locally in more remodeling, kitchens and baths, and just I've done a couple new builds, but it's still something that is relatively newer in my service levels. But I would say right now it's such an easy approach and it's a quick streamlined process the way that I have it, that I think you're a little bit shooting yourself in the foot if you say that you can't take on that client. I think what's difficult for people to understand is when they have launched their business in a full service approach, that it's hard for them to go to this approach, because they're thinking more about their portfolio, or they're thinking about their finished look, and it's really not about that. It's about the client at that point, and I might get a rendering out of it. But it kind of, I don't know if I want to say this like verbally, I kind of say this to you guys one-on-one, that it's quick, easy money.
Right. And I've
told a good base in my business.
Yeah, I actually had an interior design friend who in 2020 was only doing high-end work and was, putting her nose up at a lot of opportunity along the way. And then 2020 comes and, the world kind of stopped and high-end things, she was struggling. I should say before 2020, she was struggling. And where the opportunity was. And I said, you would be so surprised just not to say no to those renovation jobs. And one thing I learned in my career in the beginning by only doing those high-end projects was those high-end projects were 2 to 3 years in the making. So there's a lot of time in between that you could take on a lot of, smaller projects that had a lot of fulfillment and a lot of, great income. But when you say, also to a point, it's interesting that I still struggle because I treat each job the same. My process, I don't know how to do it any other way.
Yeah.
Well, I also think Tiffany
understood.
would have a very difficult time with virtual projects. She's done a few, but I think part of the problem that she has is that she can't touch and feel it. She can't go. She's not there at the installation when everything's being put in. She wants to be part of that process and see the client's face and the excitement of it. And so my question to you on that is how does that work for you when you are in many cases not?
I think, Tiffany, I think you and I could have a conversation
for hours, for sure.
about how to implement this. Because I do think that you can also, at the level that you've been working, you can offer that into your package. Like, I will come out and fly for installation or tile installation or, delivery day and
electric
install
walkthroughs or what have you.
Absolutely. You can shift your business in that. And if a client really truly wants you and your services and loves maybe a little bit of what you do, then they will hire you. So I think that is something there. But how I manage it is, I do communicate with a client afterwards. I ask them to send me pictures, and I always ask them to tell me how everything has been going. And You know, it's a little bit of a different approach. You have to kind of give off that control. You got to let go of that control.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
Right.
It comes down to giving the client what they need that they would never have received on their own.
Right. And that's such a different
that's not
mindset. I'm
service
so
level.
impressed by that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely like and this is what's been so interesting for me in the last 20 years is watching the business, the actual industry grow and evolve to this level.
Yeah. And I don't really know that a lot of designers have this aspect mastered. To be honest.
Yeah.
I really don't think they do. I get a lot of questions from designers. How do you do your business? How do you do it? Like, what do you do? And it's like, it's just the business mindset of the person and how they've launched and how they're used to doing their business. Right. So for me, I feel like, it is an approach that works and it's a different client. That's what it comes down to. It's a different client.
Okay.
And
Makes
you'll know
sense.
the client when you're talking to them. And initially, as a full service interior designer, you might be like, this is not my client. But it is a client. If you have a minimum to work with you for your ability and what you're going to give them, that is an investment in and of itself. And they have to pay that. And if they can't, then that client's not worth it. Right. But that there are clients that are willing to drop money for the service and the need. And they're like, oh yeah, I can execute on a plan. I can buy what you're telling me to buy. That's what I need. I need somebody to curate it and I can execute it. It's like, great. And the feedback has been great. So I honestly think it's just most full service interior designers might be like, no, okay, they're not ready to, do the full service, then they're not my client. And that's okay. Whereas somebody like me, I realize, okay, they're not a full service interior design client, but they are this. And if they can't afford that, then okay, good luck
Then
to
it's
you.
worth your time.
When you launched your business, did you hire a company, an SEO company or someone to help you do an outreach on the internet to get you exposure and to get you clients? Or is that something you learned yourself and handled yourself?
I've been doing this myself, and I'm a solopreneur. I'm a new entrepreneur. I have always had a knack for, as a sales rep and as a business development person, I always have known how to manage my business and hit my number and things like that. So I have that ability. But I think in my business, no. I started from scratch. I built my name. I started just attaching pictures on Instagram, finding out I'm just ChatGPT's my friend on how to grow a business.
That's one of your employees.
Yeah. Her name is Yolanda, actually. I have a neighbor. So she's one of my buddies. She's like my assistant. But no, I didn't my website from scratch. I definitely need some support, but I now recently this month started with an SEO company. So we'll see how that has worked. But I'm on certain profiles, so that kind of gives me a little bit of reach. But if you are finding me on Google, I don't know how people in the nation are. I did a job in Oklahoma. I did a job in Kentucky. And when they call me, I'm like, how did you find me? And they're like, I searched virtual interior designer. And I'm just like, wow, okay. It's nice to know that somebody out there has my name somewhere. You know what I mean? I'm
so fascinating. Fascinating.
So one area that we haven't talked about that's really important from our business, but especially from a virtual standpoint, you're doing layouts, you're putting mood boards together, 3D, photorealistic. Are you doing that to show a client what they're getting, what it's going to look like, what in the end?
Yes. I'm sorry. Was your question? Am I doing that?
Yeah,
yes.
Which I know you are doing 3-dimensional drawings.
Yes. And I added that into my package. I'll always remove it if the client is tight on investment money of working with me. But selfishly, I do want a 3D render for myself and my portfolio at the very minimal, because I don't get that beautiful picture of my styled curated room. So I do at least a 3D render, and clients really do like that. I sell it well, and I also feel I use a program that allows me to do a video as well,
I saw
and
that
it just
too.
is super unique. And I think that ties into the virtual package really nicely. And it just gives me something, for my portfolio and to present. And clients by that point are just so elated where, they're like, wow, I don't know how you can do that. Like how you can take my space. You haven't been here to measure. I'm like, yeah, like this is it's the nature of technology.
It is the nature
Honestly.
of technology. So are you doing those drawings yourself? Renders?
The drawings, I
rendering?
personally, I don't know that I want this to be live either, but
Oh.
I do outsource my renderings.
Okay, so the renderings are outsourced. Because I was wondering, because they're so time consuming.
Well, it's a skill and a craft in itself.
It is, and it's also another platform that I have to learn. And I think for me to scale the way that I want to, I wanted to spend my time doing things that I know I could do and do quickly.
Yep.
And I just trust other people, to do it. And I have a good list of people that I just outsource that. And I think that's what you have to do.
What's your communication process with your collaborator who you do work with for renderings? Do you actually send them photos of the furniture, obviously the drawing of the space, ceiling heights, details, etc.? Are you giving them fabric choices, wallpaper? Are you giving them all these details, or?
So I'm newer to the full service approach, so I haven't quite done that yet. But for my virtual design packages, I send them the floor plan and then the measurements, so they know how to kind of build the room.
Yeah.
And then I have my mood board with my selections, and that's essentially, so my layout shows where everything's going to be, and then my mood board and all the selections, and I tell them the paint color and that. So like if I have drapes, it's a link to the drapes.
I gotcha.
So some virtual can tend to be a little bit more
it's more retail driven, yes.
Yeah, versus I'm building something, with materials and things like that. So that tends to be a little bit of an easier approach.
Yes. It's definitely good for timing, and I understand the fast turnaround, using retail links and everything.
But if it would be a full service and you're doing a drape, the size, you give them the size and then say, here's the material. And usually a link to the material or a picture is something that they need to kind of create it. And you just kind of say to the client that, like, this isn't meant to be like completely bookmarked, right? Like it's meant to be conceptual, and this is meant to kind of show you how the look comes together. So that's, and it seems to be a pretty quick process. Like I usually get my renderings within like a couple days period after sending them what I need.
That's amazing. We do them in-house, and I'm so, amazed by the technology and really, like Scott was saying, the skill set of renders, because we have one that's been working with us for a while who's truly a talent. And, it definitely comes from lighting and just the way they can actually create pieces, that aren't available. And then we've had some that are just, okay, this isn't the right, the right, because I'm still in that hands-on approach.
That they're the right person. They're a little bit slower than what we're looking for.
Sure. Yeah. I think people that are really skilled in it, honestly, they can just hammer it out super quick. And
without a doubt.
I mean, I'm just amazed by how quickly they can do it. I mean, I've gone to locally, like I can go out, I have this technology, and this also fits my virtual feel, is that I can scan a room and kind of do measurements, and then also cross-reference that with hand measurements from like a contractor or something. But I go out and I scan a room, and then I bring that into, it can go into CAD, it can go into a floor plan platform, and it's such a time saver. And then I
Mhm.
just kind of cross-referenced the handwritten measurements. But I brought a local drafter out with me. So while I was scanning and I started doing like the handwritten measurements, like she was already like basically like had it written up, like already drawn up in her platform after like
Wow.
while I was there. And I was like, wait a second, you just did that? Like that would have taken me. It's a skill set that I just don't really want to
Was
do.
she
And
using
she's
one of those
so
new?
bringing it.
Was she using one of those new devices? I don't know if you've seen like Instagram and TikTok. They have ads for them where it's just like where you can walk around with it, a room or outside, and it automatically measures it and then puts it into CAD or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was using. Yeah, there's a couple platforms out there that do that. So she had something I think similar as well that is just gets it uploaded and then you do it again, like the measurements, and it becomes such a quicker process. She's like, I'd be taking 4 hours to measure this house to do this job.
Exactly.
So it does really cut off on time, and technology has gotten so good in that.
Yeah.
But to what I was saying is like they just do it so quickly that it's like, okay, I'm going to stick to what I love doing quickly to kind of scale that way.
Right.
I know, and you're saying the word scale. I mean, that's one thing that Scott and I, with Scott coming on board, was the desire to scale. If like, okay, we're going to do this and hopefully, build a scalable business and bring the kids on board eventually, or, however, God willing, that all that falls into place. I do believe that, you being newer to the field, it's like you're getting such a great learning curve on all these technical opportunities that for me, I'm so stuck in a creative process that I'm not taking advantage of.
To be honest, to be fair, Tiffany, I hear this from a lot of designers. I work with some designers that want to present themselves in the virtual space, but they can't conceptualize it, right? Like you maybe, so to speak, because you're so used to doing it a certain way, and that's a way that I'm learning into. So
Right.
somebody
Right.
like me would learn significantly from you and your process, but I have a skill set and a business model that you could add to scale to your business.
Without a doubt.
And it isn't something that you want to learn. So I have had this conversation with probably a handful of designers, and they're starting to, this is part of my growth model for this year, is that I have and will work for designers, either as their outsourcing virtual partner.
Right. Right.
I will go in and work with their mood boards, and I will do everything and communicate with the client. And, it's a little bit of just setting up the correct setup. I mean, or they can refer out to me, but I think some of them want to get paid off of my service, but I basically act as an extension of their
Which
business.
is really amazing. I mean, that's another whole opportunity level for sure.
We should talk one off if you'd like.
Yeah,
on that.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go back a little bit to the creative process. So when you were, making this your future, what is your go-to inspiration and your sourcing, and like, where do you get your passion and drive and, industry and all those good things?
Yeah. I mean, we always love a good Pinterest. I think you can get so
Yes.
much on social media right now.
Yes.
I think reps are also a really
Yes.
good
Yeah,
resource.
we
I
interview
think
a
they
lot
can
of them
be
too.
so incredibly helpful on, maybe finding the right product, or, getting just another design eye on a project. And they can also act as like a little sourcing partner for you. So I think reps are an incredible resource as well. So Pinterest, I mean, Instagram has gotten to be,
Agreed.
I really do think that TikTok and Instagram, I'm on all these platforms, that people get on there and they're like, I'm doing a kitchen remodel, I don't know what to do. And then they go kitchen remodel, and then it's like a ton of things that they could, but that's also a rabbit hole too, But
Right.
we can see very quickly and eliminate that rabbit hole, and I can get really some good inspiration. I follow a lot of designers that I might like emulate, and I see their work, and I'm not afraid to shout out and be like, that's gorgeous,
Right.
and
Yes.
take that approach and be like, wow, like I don't want to copy that approach,
No,
but
but
like
you're
look how she
inspired.
used the use of color there and like that textile with that together. And that really that speaks to me as a designer.
And I've
So
noticed
I
that a
use a lot
lot
of
about
motivation from other designers too.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
noticed that about the industry lately too through social media. It is a very supportive industry. I feel like that people are very complimentary. People do shout out. I feel like it's, more of like a sisterhood versus a competition.
Yeah. Yeah. Myself and two other designers here locally, we started this design huddle every month. And it's designed to really like, we want to learn, we want to grow from each other. We want to really elevate the industry as a whole. And that's maybe my entrepreneurial background too. But, selfishly, I do want to network with designers. I do want to learn. But I think it's important that we also elevate the industry because me coming in as a virtual designer, I am not trying to demolish the industry and come in at a low price point. I'm helping, I think, the industry grow slightly.
It's a good perspective, yeah.
And just evolve. And I think I can also learn from the full service interior designers too. So we kind of last meeting, we kind of talked about price point and we're all in the same market. And it's like, okay, how does your model work? Like how do you bill? And it's like, if we're not kind of all aligned, if a client is going to be shopping, our industry looks a little bit mishmashed if we aren't aligned with kind of how we're doing things a little bit.
And how do you see like the in the industry retail versus like say manufacturers that like to deal directly to the trade? Do you have any thoughts on where that all falls in?
Repeat that question. I'm sorry.
So like with retail items, like say versus like a restoration hardware, a pottery barn versus, to the trade sources.
What's the question about that though?
No, just in your in like your design huddles, like do you see people in the industry preferring one way or another?
I see in the industry, they do trade. They definitely have trade products, and I can get trade products. I link trade products directly where the client can buy directly. I don't procure for them,
Okay.
but I get like a small commission, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of goes into my virtual model as well.
Okay.
I prefer not to procure. So I found that they do procurement, but they also will do retail items in there. Amazon, Target.
Right. I feel like you kind of have to be a turnkey service.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I mean, what we've also gotten into that you don't want to like itemize everything because then they're not going to want to spend, $180 or $200 on a lamp. But like, you can mix in certain things to hit budget. And there are great products out there.
Without a doubt.
So yeah, I would say that they mix in products. And honestly, as I've seen some of the designers that I emulate, that's also kind of how they do it as well. And they'll blog very openly about how this bathroom remodel, the client didn't have, a high budget, but you know what? She used porcelain and she did a floor tile that was very inexpensive, but was super like, European, just felt very, I don't even know. It was like European
Luxe,
cottage,
rich, yeah.
Modern, organic. It was just like so cool. And I just think that it just depends on where you source, honestly. So.
And when you say you don't do the procurement, so your virtual system has links and the client handles all of that, the delivery date, the follow-up, the payment, because that's so much of like what our infrastructure is these days. I mean, we had 3 people out on installations and deliveries this morning, which is very time consuming that I guess you don't worry about.
Yeah, with my virtual packages, correct. No, and that was initially how I launched. Again,
so
so
smart.
different than
So smart.
other processes. I launched because I'm not there, and I launched just with the ease of I'm going to give you everything you need,
Right.
but you buy it at your own timeline,
Yes.
and your own
people
budget.
probably like that too.
But you're doing the selections for them. You're picking everything.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I'm doing the selections. I'm doing the colors. I'm giving them paint selections. I'm everything they need, but I also give them edits. Like they assist in that.
Mhm.
I might give them options, and then they pick the one that they like the best, and I might shift other materials around
because of that choice. Yes.
Are you doing
that choice, but
are
it's
you
what
doing-
they like.
Are you doing flooring and wallpaper?
Mhm.
Those items also?
Yep, I'll do engineered hardwood, carpet, wallpaper. Anything the design actually calls
Needs.
for. If it's a trade item, I link to the trade item, and I don't make as much. Again, I probably don't want that like going out to anybody else besides you and I, but I don't make the markup, right? I make a
Right.
percentage
Right.
of a commission, if you will. It might be 10% or something
But
like
you
that.
also aren't having to deal with the hassle. So there's gain in that.
And I really sell the value of white
whole
glove
picture.
delivery
Yeah.
with my clients. Like if they're buying, let's say, restoration hardware, do that white glove delivery. It's basically going to be what an installer would do. They're going to come in, they're going to set it up to our floor plan that we've identified, and you direct them. That's where it goes. Clean up your stuff and go.
Right.
That's essentially. So basically, I sell the fact that I'm giving you everything of a full service interior designer is doing. I'm not there to set it up for you. I'm happy to have a styling call with you,
Right.
Mhm.
but it's a lot of their stuff in there too, right? So you have to kind of work around
Edit in your
them.
mind.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not seeing that, but okay, we'll work with that, So I offer that to them, but they're oftentimes super happy, and they're like, oh, or look at our living room, how it looks right now, and I'm like, oh, that's great, but what the frick is that? But they're happy at the end of the day,
And that's truly the
And that's
end
important
goal.
that they're
That's-
happy.
That's important, and my reviews mean everything to me. So I think, as I evolve, will I be able to do fully what you do? Yes, and I can do that. It just, I think, I'm still working through that entire process, and it's something that I probably won't enjoy. The procurement piece and the returns and the hassles are definitely an Achilles heel to a lot of my colleagues
For sure.
that do full service interior design. And when they hear what I do, they're like, oh my gosh, that seems like so much more enjoyable. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't really have the stress. I don't have the stress. My
Which
clients
is
are
such a blessing. And you get all the fun part, which is,
the design.
the design.
Designing
Correct.
it. Which is what
Yes.
people really need, is someone helping them design it, put it together, and curate
I'm really
it.
just going to the heart of what people need, and I'm just delivering to that. Honestly, I would love those high-end clients, and I think I'm starting to get there. But I'm okay with, because I have 90% of what you hear is not like, I want you to do everything for me, I don't want to lift a finger. It's more so those clients that are like, I'm willing to pay for your service so I don't mess up.
Right.
Right. Yep.
Right. And I think
And
that's,
I can do the rest myself. I can implement this. I can tell people where to deliver things and unload it and leave. Like, I can do that.
And
you know?
Yep. And there is a niche for that. I feel like, there is a world where, because we do have, technology at our fingertips, people do think it's easier, but they definitely need the guidance. And that's an entry, a level that I feel like is so important, especially with like even down here in South Florida, which I would think is in San Diego too. There's a lot of, the Toll Brother communities. There's a lot of communities that aren't super custom, where you want to be able to personalize your space and, you know, really curate something special versus falling into just the traps of everything that's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of what I do too is, you know, educating them on how things can kind of come together, right? Like, you know, that client that isn't fully custom just wants to understand how to mix things together. And they're getting really good education from me. Whereas if somebody is maybe doing a full service project, they're making a lot of the decisions for them, you know, and kind of just it's coming together. I don't know. It's just, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
well, it is just it's a really cool niche. And I'm so happy that we were able to dive into that a little bit, because I do think that your career is going to take off and you're going to have a lot of local clients. But I would say keep your hand in this virtual side for sure.
I think so. Yeah, I really think so. Just because like that's how I built my business. That's how I've built my brand. And, you know, I think that if that client comes around and they want a full service, they're still going to get a really, really great value with me, because I still might not, I don't know, do the full on procurement piece and just send them like links to things that they can buy that might be Amber Lewis, that I didn't totally like, you know, find fabric and put on that, you know, but it is a designer piece that they wouldn't have access to if they weren't working with me.
Agreed.
So,
and that is the curation that an interior designer does bring to the table. Those layers that are special.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the iDesign Lab today. Could you tell our audience where they can find you? All your details.
What's your website and Instagram
Absolutely.
or Pinterest?
So my business name is Crew Collective Design. I am the owner, founder, and principal designer. So my name is Kristy Salewsky. And I am, I'm all over social media. I'm on Instagram, Crew Collective Design. Everything is Crew Collective Design. So CREW Collective Design. And on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest. My website is Crew Collective Design. I can help you anywhere in the United States. I mean, I'll take other countries, but no, let's just stay with the United States for now. I'm good with 50 states. And then
what is Crew? How did you come about Crew Collective? Is there a reason behind that?
It's a good question. My husband's business, and he's a builder, is Crew Builders.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I am Crew Collective Design. So there could be an opportunity in the future for us to
collaborate.
Yeah, that's I see that all happening. And so God bless on your way there. But like I said, don't give up this really interesting niche that I think really keeps you on the pulse. And if anything, it keeps the joy and the time.
And the really scalability of
amazing.
It is awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to iDesign Lab today.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.